You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. We're amidst the Rosamunde Summer Music Academy and Festival, running from August 20th through 25th. Canada's premier string academy boasts a talented roster of instructors, including Axel Strauss and Blair Lofgren, who were in studio yesterday, providing string players of all ages and abilities the opportunity to be inspired and develop in their artistry. Students and the public are welcome in back-to-back nights of faculty concerts, the first of which is tonight and features a world premiere by composer Karen Sunabacka. To learn more, I'm joined by Karen in studio alongside librettist Joyce Clousten and Rosamunde's Elation Pauls. Hello, good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Hello.
Well, Karen, let me begin by welcoming you back to Winnipeg, though I feel like I need to say Professor Sunabacka, as you were my instructor in Theory 2 at the University of Manitoba. You taught me how to write Bach chorales.
Oh, amazing.
How's it feel to be back in town?
It's great. Every time I'm back in Winnipeg, it's home. So.
You're at the Conrad Grebel University in Waterloo now.
That's correct.
Very excited that you're here and very excited that you're presenting a world premiere. I think most here in the Manitoba music community will be very familiar with you and your work. An in-demand composer. Your music's been played by the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, the Orchestre Métropolitain in Montreal. You've worked extensively in chamber music with commissions from Virtuosi, Agassiz Festival, and more. Tell us about this latest work. How did it come about?
Well, the topic is something that my mom and I actually had been wanting to do for a long time. And so when Elation had her sustenance project and asked us to write a piece for violin and piano, it was the perfect instrumentation because we wanted to write about my grandfather, Jack, my mom's father, Jack, who was a fiddler. And so what better way to do it than with violin and piano?
As you've sort of alluded to, Joyce, you've worked alongside Karen before. It's safe to say you have a very special relationship, a mother-daughter duo. What's it like collaborating with your daughter?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun. And this piece particularly is especially fun because my parents actually met playing in a band. So my mother played piano and my father played fiddle, and they practiced at my mom's family home. So they were just teenage kids.
So let's talk more about this. You're a writer, a social worker, a Métis knowledge keeper. Can you tell us more about this story behind Jack the Fiddler, as it's your own story, right?
Well, it is. And it just seemed very normal as I was growing up. The title came when we talked about a title, and it seems a perfect title because I met someone about 10 years ago, some 40 or 50 years after I left the community where my parents lived and farmed and where I grew up. And she recognized my name and she said, "Oh, and which of the Cloustens are you?" And I said, "Well," she said, "Ask who my father is." And I said, "My father's Jack." And she said, "Oh, Jack the fiddler. Oh, us teenage girls used to love the guys in the band," and so he was the fiddler and my uncle was the sometimes piano and sometimes my mom took his place. They all were sharing and they practiced at my grandparents' very hospitable home. So I heard lots of stories, and actually music was pretty central to all of our lives. It was folk music, and so for a while when I grew up I thought, I was almost a little sensitive about it, but it was the music that I knew best, and I love all sorts of music now. And but yeah, that was my childhood experience.
So it's safe to say that music has continued in the household, and you mentioned kind of that folk music tradition and how, he was known as Jack the Fiddler, and that's exactly the title of this work. Yeah. So then let me go back to you, Karen, in terms of how you've realized this music, coming from the folk music inspiration as a musical academic yourself. How do you bring those two worlds together?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't for a long time because for me it was quite separate. Like the family, my grandparents' farm was where we did the fiddling, and I even picked up the violin and fiddled a bit, even though I'm a cellist. So that's the kinds of things I did growing up, and we dance around. And so that was very separate. And then I had my serious music life where I was a cellist, and I started when I was 6 through Suzuki, right? So I had kept them very separate. And even in university, I kind of shied away from that. I would every once in a while do a party trick and borrow someone's fiddle and play a fiddle tune. But that was only at after parties or something. And so it wasn't until I started to really think about Well, in the music world now, there's a freedom to kind of do what you want, and I just started getting more and more curious about my Métis ancestry and realizing that like I really spent so much time at this Métis farm and hadn't really thought it. I thought everyone did this, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to realize it's quite unique. And there's something about the fiddle music that like makes me want to dance. Like it's just how that is. And so, and I guess I just started thinking about my grandmother, and she had been gone for a long time. And so, yeah, it was the first a Manitoba Chamber Orchestra piece. And I thought I'll be inspired by my grandmother. And that's the first piece I did. And then I just loved doing it so much. So I've had a hard time getting away from that now. I do this a lot more than I had before. But that's like, it's only about 10 years that I've been really exploring and mixing them together. And of course, there's a long tradition, Bartok and others, of using folk music. So I started to just kind of take that route through some of my music, not all of it, but yeah.
So the premiere takes place tonight at CMU's La Damus Auditorium and features Juno Award-winning pianist Will Bonas at the keyboard with Elation Pauls on the violin, who's been hanging out here in studio through this conversation. Elation, how does it feel to be almost brought into the family through this music?
It's such a beautiful thing. Yeah, music really takes us places where we don't normally go. And it's an honor and a privilege to be sharing in this story, in bringing this story to Manitobans and beyond. And I think it's a really beautiful part of Manitoba, of who we are here, and I'm really excited to see where it goes in the future.
Now, I am curious about the work itself. Can you give us your perspective as an outsider, though was one been brought into the family? How would you characterize it? What can audiences expect to hear tonight?
Yeah, it's very, it really does depict the landscape. I think you hear a lot of nature. You hear a wide open space. You hear birds. So it's very evocative of the prairies. And it's the first time I've done a piece where there's where I'm working with a narrator, and Karen will be narrating the story. So it's quite direct in that way. So you have the music and then the spoken word, and the two are woven really beautifully together.
As Elation mentioned, you're going to be serving as narrator in this premiere, Karen. Are you often involved in your premieres? Or let me ask you this. Have you ever narrated in one of your premieres before?
I actually have.
No way.
But very recently. So it's something my mom and I have been doing more in the last 2 years, really. So we started with a piece called The Place Where the Creator Rests. And that was a narration. And it was really a conversation between me and those it was a piano trio for that one, a 20-minute. And it was exploring Métis and Mennonite relations in Treaty 1 territory. So we're hoping to record that one, actually. But that was premiered in Ontario. So that was the first time I did that. I don't think I've been involved in any other ones, have I? Oh no, I guess Mama's Painting too.
Yes.
Which my mom premiered, and it was her writing as well. And that was really about her mom. So now we're talking about her dad. So I've narrated that one a few times too. That was the first time. I guess that was 2015, 16, 17.
I would especially imagine as a composer, there's something very special about being involved in your premiere, because so often, at least from what I've seen as not a composer, but so often the composer presents it and lets the artists and the musicians take this work on the stage and bring it to life. But you're involved in that intimately as well too. So it's got to be a sort of a unique aspect of this particular premiere.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, as a cellist, when I was a student, I used to premiere my works too, right?
Yeah,
as a cellist, though. So this is funny because I get into a different mindset. And so especially for The Place Where the Creator Rests, I couldn't even listen to the music properly because it was so new. And I realized the piano had been playing something wrong the whole time. Until we finally got to the second or third performance, and I was like, wait, what? You're not supposed to be pitzing anymore. You're supposed to be playing. So it was like one of these things where he was so panicked because he was trying to pitz in the piano. He just also had missed the fact that he was not supposed to be playing in the piano anymore. So anyways, so that's the thing. Like my brain does go into different places. Because I'm used to sitting back and kind of being super nervous, but without any control.
Right.
So in this time, I do have my own part to play, so I think I do narrow in. So I don't enjoy it as much, I think. But it's also fun. I was a performer, and I play a little bit now, but mostly I'm listening or in the audience. So it's fun. It's fun to be right involved in the story.
So, Elation, you are the driving force of Rosamunde, co-founder, artistic director. Just a quick word. How's the year been thus far?
Oh, amazing. Yeah, this is the first year that we have our Mini Rosie, Core, Pre-Professional, and Rosamunde programs
It's
running.
all back.
Yeah.
It's all back.
And actually, the Pre-Professional program started during COVID.
That's right. Yeah.
We started online with that program. Last year was the first time we ran it, but we didn't have enough Mini Rosies to run that program. And this year we have 10 Systema students in our Mini Rosie program. So it's a full campus. Yeah, it's been fantastic.
One kind of thing that I was thinking about, and one of the kind of core aspects of Rosamunde is the fact that not only do you welcome this distinguished guest faculty, Axel Strauss and Blair Lofgren, as I mentioned right off the top of the interview, were in studio yesterday, so complimentary of the program and the festival. They'll be busy performing tonight and tomorrow as well in other works. Why do you think it's important to offer both instruction and the opportunity to see the instructors perform as part of Rosamunde?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's where we are hoping some of our students will end up on stage, right? I think they really need that vision for their future. They need those role models. And man, there's a lot of music to play, and it's so gorgeous. I'm so excited about these programs because like every work that's on it is just so revealing, and they need to hear that repertoire, and they need to see where the rubber hits the road, right? Like, okay, we're talking about bow control, we're talking about sounding point. What does that look like in a performance of the Schubert double cello quintet? Or it's very, very important that the students have the opportunity to hear who they're working with.
And I think the public also appreciates the opportunity to just see some great players get on stage and make music, as is going to be happening tonight, 7 p.m. at the Laudamus Auditorium at the Canadian Mennonite University. Also on the program, music of Joseph Haydn, the Lark, the String Quartet number 53 in D major. And then after the intermission, music of Robert Schumann, the Piano Quintet in E-flat, opus 44. As mentioned, right off the hop, the program begins with a world premiere, Karen Sunabacka's Jack the Fiddler. Purchase tickets $25 in advance or $30 at the door. 500 Shaftesbury Boulevard is the address of the Laudamus Auditorium at the Canadian Mennonite University. Rosamunde, ROSAMUNDE.ca for tickets and more details. Thank you all for being here this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We're going to end with a little bit of Karen Sunabacka's music from the 2022 disc Curlicue. This is Daryl Friesen performing Lost.